If you were going to describe, though, like just what you do from angel investing to VC stuff and all the things that come with it to a 5-year-old, I was just thinking, I was like, there's probably somebody right now being like, what the heck is Maxine talking about? I love it, but I got to figure this out. How would you describe to them? Like, how would you tell a 5-year-old what you do?
That is such a great question. Where my brain immediately goes is farming.
Farming. Okay.
So I'm like a farmer. My job is to find really fantastic seeds and plant them in the best soil for them to grow as fast as possible and as large as possible.
It's the best description. This is the best description that you can think about with what you do. And this is why I think it's maybe unfortunately has gotten masked over the years of like what this is. I think it's unfortunate it kind of lives in some of the bounds of just some of the transactional stuff that only happens either whether it's Wall Street or things across the pond or whatever they might be. But when you break it down like that, the get it factor now and why someone like you might be good at it and why it takes somebody like you to also be able to recognize valuable seeds. Because otherwise, like how are you finding these? Which leads me to ask, what are the seeds that you what are the crops you typically look for?
Yeah, I have a bad habit of butchering analogies, so I think we should keep going with this analogy and we'll like extend ourselves like way beyond the logical extension of it. I look for seeds that can be sequoias. So the kind of huge Californian tree that lives for many, many, many generations. But they all start in this. Actually, I think this is why Sequoia chose the tree as their symbol, is because sequoias only grow through fire. Like they have to be burned in order to be able to be successful. So look for the seeds that seek out the fire, like seek to be burned in order to grow and love that journey.
Yeah.
They also have the possibility of being a sequoia. So they can grow to these enormous generational companies. There are so many wonderful businesses being built every single day. And if you think of venture capital as only one of the funding strategies or capitalization strategies for businesses, I think it is one of the most well-resourced, and it does a wonderful job of promoting itself to try and attract as much opportunity to it. But in the scheme of potential capitalization strategies for businesses, it is like the minute, the least probable to be the best capitalization strategy for your business, because it requires that this particular seed has all of these really unique features, right? It can grow huge. It can sustainably grow huge. It actually can grow really quickly relative to the full potential seed crop out there. And it wants to be in a really tough environment, like thrive in a really tough environment. And so we look for seeds that are that category. This is where the analogy is going to break. The seed has to have some Australian element to it. Okay. So what I mean by that is Australian founders. So we look for companies with at least one Australian founder. They don't have to be in Australia. They don't have to be, in...
And Maxine living in Austin is acceptable.
Right, absolutely.
Yep.
The kind of insight I focus on there is Australians, because we're focused on pre-seed, Australians generally undersell themselves. So the informational asymmetry between what an Australian founder will tell you they're going to do and what an American investor hears is quite large.
Oh, it's so fascinating. So there's the value there if you can uncover what's being said, but it probably takes an Australian
bilingual
whisperer, a bilingual, right, the Rosetta Stone to be able to go in there and find it.
Right, exactly. Or to help those founders communicate in this ecosystem and understand this ecosystem. And there's a lot of Australian operators here.
I mean, it's fascinating to think that when you first said that, I go, it makes sense. Maybe she's just trying to create that like culture cohesion. And like if you're raising a bunch of money from LPs in Australia, having an Australian probably makes sense. But what you're saying is actually, no, it's deeper than that, right? The Australian themselves are already diminishing the value just naturally because of who they are. So that's how I know that there's probably something to be uncovered there.
Right, exactly.
Fascinating.
There's a fascinating anecdote if you listen to the Canva founders or the Linktree founders when they first pitched their businesses, and they had these massive visions and they had all of this incredible traction. But the way they talked about it was like, oh, we kind of done this little thing. We've got a couple of million users. We're almost profitable. We've raised like 100K, but like, you know, we're pretty good. Whereas like the American equivalent of that pitch is like, we're going out for Series B. We are, you know, Sequoia is going to write that term sheet for us. Like, you know, they're just like very good at telling you about what's going to happen. And it's very persuasive. You know?
They would have done that at 50 users.
Right.
We'd be like, we're going to the moon, you know,
Right.
like, are you on board or not?
Yeah. And look, Australians, like they learn quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Like you listen to Mel now at Canva or Alex at Linktree, like they're going to the moon. They know now how to close that informational asymmetry. So the opportunity for us as a fund is to find them at pre-seed, help them close that informational asymmetry, help them understand the US market and find the right investors in the US market. And in that single round, there's like a 5 to 7x arbitrage between the two.
Before we come off this topic, I could literally talk to you all day about this stuff. But you got some other great stuff to chat about. We got some other great stuff to chat about. No, I know. You do talk about this all day. So what are two more things that you look for in companies, specifically maybe to co-ventures, but just in general, that you find will become these Sequoias?
So one of the wonderful things about pre-seed investing is, or at least the way that I think about pre-seed investing is kind of two categories, right? You're first evaluating the opportunity. Like, is this a Sequoia? Is there a world where this is a Sequoia? Right? Can it be huge? Can it grow efficiently? Does it have the features of a business that can be an enormous generational company? But then we remind ourselves we're evaluating seeds here. We're not evaluating a Sequoia. So once you get to conviction on that kind of first evaluation piece, the majority of our evaluation and the things that actually really matters to get us from here to being a sapling is all founder and founding team. So the big things we look for are grit and growth mindset. So this idea, in my analogy of like they run towards the flames, they actually enjoy being in the flames as a way of growing. And they have that mindset of kind of wanting to grow really quickly. And they have shown over time, you know, spend a lot of time actually this is a place where the coaching really comes in, like having conversations that for some founders are a little bit closer to home than they would expect for an investor to be speaking to them about. But I really want to understand, like, what's their story so far? What are those moments that they've been in flames and what happened for them? And how have they ingested those learnings? Because what you're looking for is velocity, not necessarily destination. So I want to see how they're moving and how they're moving over time. And then grit is because it's really hard. Like you and I have done it. Sometimes you just you got to push through it. And I want to see that they have that in them. They're really obsessed with the problem. They deeply know the problem and that they have that grit to apply themselves towards that problem. If I can get to conviction on those two buckets, like it can be a Sequoia and it's the right founding team chasing that, then it's a really exciting prospect for me. And we'll invest in anything. So any kind of company that we think can be that kind of growth scale. We won't do biotech, we won't do hardware, and we won't do DevOps just because we don't have the kind of skill set in our firm to be really useful as a partner in that journey, but anything else we'll look at.